Hey everyone, Callie here today to talk to you about my thoughts and opinions on the best 5-star Eidolons that you can get in Honkai Star Rail. Now, I'm not going to say anything beyond E2 because, well, if you're a whale, you don't need to watch this video. You're watching this video because you're a lower spender, you're saving up for a while, and you want to know best E1 and E2 that you can get for your account. I'm going to start with Harmony, because I think Harmony is one of the best places for you to invest in. Rame, for instance, I have her E1. When the ultimate is deployed, damage dealt by all allies ignores 20% of the target's defense. That's huge. It's really strong on top of her already strong buffs. I'm a big fan of E1 Rame. Would highly recommend, if you have Rame and you use her in your teams, to work on getting this one. Will add pretty substantial amount of damage. It's not straight 20, it's like a 15-16%. I don't remember the exact conversion, but it's pretty strong. I would say though, even though I don't have her or like her, Robin's E1 is even stronger. While the Concerto state is active, which is most of the battle, all allies, all type res pen increases by 24%. It's probably the strongest of the Harmony E1s. Now you may be saying, well, what about E2? You skipped E2 on Rame. Well, you really just need E1 on these. But this one's probably the strongest E1 for all the Harmonies. If you are a Robin haver, Robin wanter, this should be a target for you. It's very strong. For E2, I don't think it's worth getting, really. I mean, it's okay, but she's already advancing everyone, and you're gonna clear in probably less than 4 cycles. That speed's not gonna make a massive difference. You might get maybe 1 extra attack, but E1 definitely worthwhile. It's just I did kind of skip her E2. We'll take a look. All allies increase their attack by 40% when dealing damage to enemies with weakness break. I mean, it's decent. I would say there's other characters worth getting more Eidolons on than stacking up E2 on her. Now, looking at our next limited character, we have Sparkle. I do have her E1, which makes it to where she can have 2 people in her party buffing. The second one's not going to get as much of a buff because they won't get her skill, but the Cypher effect will take effect, and it basically makes her able to use 2 DPS in the party. Not perfect, but it is quite strong. And it gives an extra 40% attack, so I like this. I think it's worth it. E2, each stack it's 8%, so it's 3, 24. This one is also quite strong. It's actually stronger than Ron May's because it's 24% instead of 20, and it has almost 100% uptime instead of Ron May's, which has got like a 70% uptime. So this is actually really strong too. If you're gonna consider getting Sparkle, or actually any of the Harmonies, E1's going to be sufficient enough. You should try to get other characters. Their E2s are decent, but it's better to get more characters. Now, for Branya, her E1 is exceptional. Absolutely exceptional. When using skill, 50% chance of recovering a skill point, which is great. That's really, really good. If you happen to get E4, this is really, really good with Beishao, but her E1 is universally known as strong. So that's kind of the limited Harmonies. They're all good. Getting E1 on all of them is great. Getting E2, Sparkle's E2 and Robin's E2 are probably better than Ron May's. So if you're interested in that, do those. Okay, let's move over to the next path. Nihility. Acheron. As soon as she gets her damn rerun, I'm gonna get her E2. For Acheron, It's either E0 or E2. Her E1 gives her 18% crit rate. It's never going to show up in your character banner. So you're going to be like, my math's off. And no. You just got to add it up. Her E2, in my opinion, is the strongest E2 in the game. It changes how she can play. It gives an additional point every time she gets a turn and inflicts a stack of Crimson Knot, an enemy with the most, like, E2 Acheron is the strongest Eidolon for early gameplay. If you're like me, you're gonna get, like, she's probably gonna rerun in 2.6. If not 2.6, she'll be back in 2.7. Like, if it's either E0 or E2, E1 is just a stepping stone to E2. I will recommend E2 Acheron all day. She is exceptional, very, very strong. If you get E2 Acheron, you can clear half of any of the in-game modes, no problem. So, there's my speech on Acheron and why she is amazing. Black Swan, I got her E1, like, really early on. Actually, up until I got Zhao, she was part of my Acheron team. Because when her ult's up, she reduces lightning resistance. You could actually slap Kafka's light cone on her and keep that up even more and make her even better support for Acheron, which I don't have that light cone for Kafka. But it's interesting. I might have to see if I could throw a few pulls at that, because that would be pretty strong. Anyway, E1's good. For E2, it's decent. Do you need either one of these? No, she functions just fine at E0. I got E1 really, really early. I got lucky, and that's why I did this. It was really strong for Acheron for quite a while. Zhao's much better. Black Swan, I would recommend just doing E0. Zhao, however. Zhao's E1, which I don't have, is very strong. It's extra 40% damage amp. This second part doesn't really matter. If you start combat with his, like, field on the ground, and you do skill into ultimate, as soon as the enemies take an attack, they're gonna be at 5 stacks. This just means as soon as you start combat and you go skill ultimate, they all have 5 stacks. Like, it's decent, but the first part is the strong part. 40% damage amp is wild on top of everything else. It's strong. His E2 allows him to be using dot teams. Really, really, really powerful if you want to use him in dot teams. But you have Black Swan and Kafka do more. But his E1 is good. It's probably one of the stronger E1s in the game for a support character. I lost my E1. I tried to get it. I got I think Yan Qing instead or something. I don't remember. I didn't win it. Sad times. Is there any other Nihility worth talking about? Not in particular. That's part of the current meta. So, Acheron E2, big fan. Zhao E1, also really good. E2 if you want to use them in dot, but I would say E1, E2 is kind of your targets here. Moving on to Destruction. Destruction, really, E1 Firefly. Makes her SP really easy to deal with. E1 Firefly is very, very, very strong. If you are a Firefly haver, Firefly wanter, get E1 as soon as she reruns. I'm guessing she's going to be back in 2.7 or 2.8, is my guess. It's huge. Like, it's so good. Her E2, while in complete combustion using a Intense Basic, allows him to gain an extra turn. Yeah, extra turn. It's real good. E1 is incredibly strong. E2 is a nice buff, but E1 is massive. I would say E1 is the strongest Destruction Eidolon that there is. Period. Looking at other ones, I think that Jingliu's outclassed at this point. She used to be worth getting her E1, but there's never a time where there's one enemy on the field hardly at all that's not worth it anymore. I can't recommend getting Jingliu or Blade Eidolons at all. Dan Heng used to be really incredible with his E2. He gets action forward. After using his ultimate, he gets another stack of his thing. E2, Dan Heng, very, very strong. Not as strong as it used to be. So really the only destruction character I could truly say, Firefly E1, yes. Yunli, like her E1's good too. It gets more damage. Ignores defense. Both are pretty damn strong. But gameplay changing amounts of damage, Firefly E1 is just huge. So out of the destruction characters, really just Firefly is only one as of September, what is today? September 22nd that I can recommend getting. Okay. Hunt. Topaz Numby. E1. 50% crit damage increase. This is incredibly strong. Incredibly, incredibly strong. I highly recommend this if you have follow-up attack teams. Am I getting it? No, I'm not. Why? Because I'm saving for Acheron. I have her E0. I know this is very strong, but I don't have it. But of all of the Hunt Eidolons that are available in the game, her E1 is probably the strongest of them. So if you like the follow-up attack teams, get her E1. Very, 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 very strong. Look at the other characters. Fei Xiao E1. I did the math. This basically says for every 4 ultimates you do, you'll get a 5th one worth of damage for free. So if you do 4 ultimates, it's like doing the damage of 5 ultimates. That's what it does. I mean, it's decent. I don't think it's necessary. E2 means she gets her ultimates, like, a lot faster. I think it's good. I don't think either one of these is necessary. Honestly, I would just use her at E0, S1. That's my recommendation for Fei Xiao. Looking at Buhel, he gets an extra stack of this, ignores some defense, recovers some skill points, increases break effect. Like, they're decent, but I could really only recommend Topaz and Numby E1. Got your ratios. They're, get an extra stack, but Dr. Ratio's outclassed now that Fei Xiao exists, so really, Topaz and Numby is the only hunt I could recommend getting. Erudition. Jade. It's just Jade. Follow-up attack damage from Jade's talent increased 32%. After the deck collector character attacks, number of enemy targets hit is either 2 or 1, she gains the charge. This is allowing her to be played outside of pure fiction. So if you like Jade, and you want to use her in MoC or Apocalyptic Shadow, you need E1. Otherwise, honestly, just full transparency, if you're getting Jade, it's either E1 or don't pull her. That's how effective that is. And then that's all I have to say about that. So Jade, either get E1 or don't pull her at all. We don't have a whole lot of limited 5 stars. Argentees, more crit damage. It's really just Jade E1. It's Jade E1 or don't pull Jade at all. You're gonna eventually get Himiko Eidolons, except for me. I have E2 of all of them, E1 of all of them except her and Clara, but eventually you'll get them. What do we have left? Preservation. I think the E1 Aventurine is the strongest preservation increase. It's 20% crit damage for the team. And whenever he uses his ultimate, he gives a shield. You're basically gonna have you're gonna have shields all the time. You're never gonna run out of shield. 20% crit damage. Like, I am probably going to get his E1 when he reruns. I will then have E1, S1. I'm doing that instead of Topaz because it will be more beneficial to all teams, and it's going to make the simulated universe modes a lot easier in the higher difficulties like V8, etc. I like his E1 a lot. It's very, very strong. Ushwan's is also decent. 30% more crit damage, but his gives crit damage and the shield. I think his is better. This prevents an ally from dying, but if you get her light cone, you're not gonna need that. I didn't talk about his E2, sorry. I mean, that's decent, but his E1, he works fine at E0, but if you want to amp him up, E1's quite good. I plan on getting it. Abundance. Just whoa. Her E1's good. 12% speed, an extra turn on that, makes her more SP positive. It's really decent. It's not going to really give you maybe one more attack after like 4 or 5 cycles. Is it necessary? No, you don't need it. It's decent, yes. This can heal enemies that are getting killed. Her light cone is probably a better bet because it's just more consistent healing, but I can't really recommend these effectively. Locha's outclassed at this point. We don't have Linksha up here. Linksha's is pretty decent from what I remember seeing. But that's kind of my thoughts. So in summary, Harmony, Rame, Robin, Sparkle, their E1s and E2s are good. You're not gonna go wrong by getting limited Eidolons of the limited Harmonies. They're great. No question there. Destruction. Just Firefly E1. Hunt, Topaz, Numby E1. Erudition, Jade E1 or don't pull Jade. Nihility, I would say Acheron E2. If not E2, get E0. And Zhao E1 is also incredibly strong. Preservation again, Adventuring's my recommendation. And that's all. So I hope this video was helpful to you all in your journey throughout the stars. I am a big fan of various characters that we have in this game, and it seems like we have some pretty cool ones upcoming soon with Rappa. I think that Rappa is going to be quite powerful in the teams that she is used in. So, that being said, thank you all for watching. If you've made it this far, our secret word for the video is Numby. Numby. So, thanks all, and we'll talk soon. Bye for now.